All right, let's get straight to it. So a lot of people in the sport of boxing is debating about the Muhammad Ali Act, the Revival Act, what's good, what's bad. As much as I'm pro-fighter, right? As much as I respect Oscar De La Hoya, the golden one, the golden boy, done a wonderful job as a fighter and a promoter, I'm rolling with Nick Khan on this one. Why? Me as a boxing fan, one of the primary issues I have with the sport of boxing is the inactivity. The inactivity of especially the recognizable names, those who are in position to enhance and push the sport, right? Scheduling, structure is what's needed in the sport of boxing that we don't have right now. So Oscar De La Hoya yesterday, in the Senate hearing, was talking about that everything is all good, everything is taken care of, that the system is good, that the system works. And as a boxing fan, it doesn't. Again, it's too many belts, and and there's a lot of contradictions as well. As much as I respect Oscar De La Hoya, there's a little bit of uncertainties with Nick Khan as well, statements. But Oscar De La Hoya, in the lead up to Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Davis, he was one of the ones that says that belts don't matter, that belts is not as significant anymore because there's too many belts. He was saying it. Floyd Mayweather was saying it. Bernard Hopkins was saying it. When it benefits them and there was no belts to promote, it was easy to say that belts don't matter like it used to. Why doesn't belt matter like it used to? It's too many belts, so it's watered down, right? Zuffa wants to implement one title, which I believe a lot of fans of the sport of boxing will like. There's a lot of hardcore boxing fans that they are confused. They can't even tell you all the champions in the sport of boxing, right? And we all know that it's a business within being a champion, right? Fighters have to pay for their belt fee, sanctioning fee, the champion and the challenger. Almost like you got to pay to be a champion. There's a reason why there's a lot of fighters out there that don't strive to be a undisputed or unified champion because, you know what I'm saying? Could they afford it? You know what I'm saying? Could they afford it? Some guys can't afford to be a champion. They don't get paid enough. So with the Revival Act, it gives the opportunity, right, for Nick Khan, Dana White, TKO to implement something that's been missing in boxing, and that's the sports element. See, boxing has become just, of course, boxing is prize fighting. But it became to the point where you can't sustain and you can't captivate the imaginations and the emotions of the boxing fans because there's not enough action. There's not enough. There's too many I don't knows in the sport of boxing, if you understand what I'm trying to say. I'm going to give you an example. When is Gervonta Davis going to fight again? I don't know. When is Virgil and Boots going to fight? I don't know. When is Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury going to fight? I don't know. When is Anthony Joshua going to fight again? I don't know. When is Teofimo Lopez going to fight again? I don't know. Who's Ryan Garcia going to fight? And when he's going to fight? I don't know. It's too many I don't knows. Too many other. When is Devin Haney going to fight? I don't know. It's too many I don't knows. As a sport fan and other respectable fans, we're highly educated about those particular sports. Look, Oscar De La Hoya argues about the UFC, right? And Nico Ali Walsh was arguing about the UFC. But look, I'm not even a UFC fan like that. I respect the fighters, but I don't follow the UFC like that. Yet the UFC have structure. Yeah, there's gonna be people that there's gonna be, well, they don't get paid like boxers and stuff like that. Well, let me tell you like this: a lot of people don't generate money like that in the sport of boxing. To be saying I want these millions and stuff like that, even though that I like all these fighters to be compensated very, very well. But in the UFC, if you look at the schedule of the UFC, you know when there's gonna be an event. There's a schedule all the way up to August. So as a UFC fan, and you can see the crowd of the UFC, you know what to expect. Your interest is there. Because it's sustainable. You know what I'm saying? You know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna give you an example also, like in the sport of boxing. It's like we know Canelo have a unwritten schedule, right? We know that Canelo Alvarez usually, and I'm saying for the most part of his high profile career, he fights in Cinco de Mayo and in September, right? So his fan base knows, okay, Canelo Alvarez is gonna be in September. They anticipate it. And ladies and gentlemen, anticipation sells. In the sport of boxing, there's no anticipation. We don't know. So what Zuffa brings to the table is some structure. It brings the sport element that has been missing for quite some time, right? And that's what I'm going for. We're boxing fans. We truly don't really care about how much these fighters truly make. It's not going in my pocket. We're the one that we're the consumers. We're the one that actually pay for Paramount. We're the one that pay for the Zone and things of that nature, right? Sometimes I remember there was 1 month I paid for the Zone. I think it was a January, right? I forgot what, I think it was 23 or 22. And there was no events. There was no events in January, but guess what? I paid for that month. So that wouldn't happen if you have the NBA pass. You're not paying for the NBA pass when there's no seasons, for the MLB, for the NFL and stuff like that, right? So, I think that, and the reason why I will go with the Nick Khan, and what Zuffa is trying to implement is because the Muhammad Ali is not going to be taken away. There is no subtraction. There's only addition. So why not add? Now, if there was subtraction, if they was trying to take something away, then there'll be an issue. But guess what? There's some fighters. There's fighters that's happy to sign with Zuffa. So there's fighters out there that's happy. Opataya is happy. Berlanga just signed. He's happy. Hitchens just signed. He's happy. You know what I'm saying? So there's other fighters that have signed with Zuffa that likes the structure, like the whatever that is going to be planned for them. Conor Ben just signed. He's happy. So there's some high-profile fighters that is happy with the structure, with the thought that there's going to be, it's going to be good, it's going to be beneficial for the fighter. See, Oscar de la Hoya is arguing for the fighter, but not all fighters are equal, right? And then there's some security when it comes to insurance leading up to the fight. How many times have we seen fights get canceled because somebody get injured, right? Do they get compensated? Sometimes the promoter out of his pocket compensates him. So yeah, when Nico Ali was talking about where he had a surgery and they took care of him, well, I know fighters out there that had surgery, that got hurt, that they had to come out of pocket and take care of themselves. You know what I'm saying? So trust me, I know personally a fighter that I have advised that needed to go to the doctor, and he had to get his own insurance. So there was a little bit inconsistency, maybe because Oscar de la Hoya as a promoter and has the feeling of a fighter as well. We've heard that he's been there for Virgil Ortiz. We know that Eddie Hearn has been there for Conor Ben, but in all actuality, it is not like written on stone that you're insured by me. That's what Zuffa is bringing to the table during camp and the fight, that their health is going to be taken care of. Minimum paydays. You know that you're going to get, what was it, 200 a round or something like that for the minimum. That's just the minimum, right? Look, maybe for a high-profile fighter that, for example, like Gervonta Tank Davis, maybe the traditional way of boxing helps him out. But what about those that's on the come-up? What's their security? What's their insurance? There's a lot of young fighters right now, especially right now where boxing was at, where there was, for example, there was, Top Rank at the time didn't have network deal, and you had LD Cedeno Martinez not knowing what's going to be next. There's a lot of fighters right now that don't know what's going to be next. Remember, this is their livelihood. They don't know when they're going to fight. They don't know they don't know when they're going to fight. They don't know the opponent. They don't know how many rounds. They don't know how much they're going to be paying. And put it this way, fighters pay medical fee. They pay belt fee, sanctioning fee, and during the fight, and they pay for the medical fee. So they pay as well. It's not all the promoters, not all the time that the promoters pay for the medical fee. So they're going to be taken care of. In the end of the day, I'm a boxing fan that wants to just look at boxing as a sport. And that's what Zuffa is bringing to the table. And the other promoters, the system that we have in place right now is not a sustainable way to keep the interest of sports fans and boxing fans. That's why we're losing so many fans, because nobody know who's who. Nobody know when somebody gonna be fighting. Nobody know who truly is the champion. So the system is highly broken. So things need to change, just like in everything, in any situation that is broken, it needs to be changed. So I like the addition more than just keeping it the way that it is, because to be honest, look at the system we had. WBC franchise that has taken away of the legacy of a guy like Teofimo Lopez. Look at when Jermall Charlo was in a position to fight Canelo Alvarez, and then he got the franchise title. Look at when Floyd Mayweather was the champion, and Keith Thurman was in a mandatory position, and they gave him a super WBA strap, which then he don't get the opportunity for a big fight with Floyd Mayweather. See, in the Zuffa and in that structure, see, Floyd Mayweather would have to fight a Keith Thurman at that time, not an Andre Berto. So I'm going with Nick Khan, but I do support Oscar De La Hoya, what he's done for the most part in the sport of boxing. But there needs to be a change, you know. And talking about the disclosure, revenue and stuff like that, there's still a lot of boxers that don't know their worth, don't know the business model, where all this money is coming from. Let's be real, let's be honest. The promoters do deals with the networks, and what the deal with the networks have nothing to do with the fighter. The fighter is not in the room when they cutting these deals. How about you have the fighters in the same room as the promoter, the network, and stuff like that, so they know exactly how much is the budget, how much is in the pot. The fighters don't know that. The fighters don't know that. And when the fighters actually does find out, when there's some great attorneys and managers, that's when they want to walk out. That's when they want to terminate their contract. That's when they have beef with the promoter. There's a lot of beef with a lot of high-profile fighters with their promotional company. So, at the end of the day, I like this move. I like this move. Maybe the Zuffa is more like as a fighter, you're more an employee, and the old traditional way of the business of boxing, you're a private contractor, right? I think there's certain fighters that should be private contractors, and then there's some fighters, most fighters should be under like an employment that is going to secure them. That's how I see boxing, right? The high profile fighters are like the entrepreneurs, you know what I'm saying? They business owners, right? Private contractors, right? But most of the people are workers. And just like every sport, they all employees. But it does work for the fans. We understand the landscape of the sport. We understand why this person get paid. We understand salary caps. We understand 10-day contracts. We understand every hardcore fan of that respective sport understand their sport. But when it comes to the sport of boxing, too many gray areas, too many it's just too many things that doesn't make sense. So I want it to make sense. So I think it's gonna pass anyway. I think the bill's gonna pass. Why not? Let me know what y'all think. It's Punch on Boxing, aka Mr. Moonshine himself. Love you. God bless, and on to the next.